Hey, what's up guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. Could you ask for a more beautiful setting to be in right now? This is Temple of the Sun here in Capitol Reef National Park. The reason that I'm talking to you about this today is we're going to talk about one of my favorite and most memorable backpacking trips that I've ever been on. I want to share and talk about my experience from the Beehive Traverse trip that I went on with Wasatch Will a couple years ago, and what that trip has done for me and how I approach my backpacking here moving forward, basically, because that trip alone changed a lot of how I approach my backpacking trips and how I plan the trips that I go on. Now, the Beehive Traverse is an off-trail route that navigates through the heart of the water pocket fold of Capitol Reef National Park. It was pioneered and developed by a gentleman named Steve Howe that does a guiding service, or owns a guiding service, that takes people through this exact route. And so there's not a lot of information on it, and it's important that it stays that way as well. Not to keep it secret or anything from people, but this is a route that has a lot of risk to it. There is a lack of water availability, and navigating these canyons that run through the water pocket fold can be very dangerous, and you can find yourself cliffed out. You can find yourself in areas that could lead to just getting stuck and not knowing how to get out of that situation. And so I am putting a lot of respect onto Steve, but also to Wasatch Will, who I joined on this trip, to basically, like, the amount of work that went into making it so that he and I could go on the trip. Now, all credit goes to him for putting this together. He simply needed somebody to join him on the trip that could help him with the difficulty of it. And so I was up for the challenge, but I did not know what this trip was going to present and how it was going to change a lot of things for me. We're going to talk about Type 2 fun and why Type 2 fun is so important and why I seek out Type 2 fun experiences based off of what the Beehive Traverse was for me. The reason that this is difficult and presents itself with Type 2 fun experiences is there are several obstacles and very technical terrain that you have to navigate through to be able to get through this particular route. There are areas that you're wading through waist deep water and very cold water in that manner. You are climbing up very steep gullies, and you are just going through different types of obstacles that have a lot of exposure that could create very high risk scenarios if you are not smart and careful about what you're doing. So I'll let you watch the video to see kind of the perspective and what the route itself is like. And if you haven't watched my video on the Beehive Traverse or Will's video, definitely check him out, because it'll shine a lot of light on what this particular discussion is sharing and the things that I've processed in my mind ever since. So the first day of this trip was pretty manageable. There were some difficult obstacles for us to get around. We didn't make it as far as we wanted to, and that was fine. That was a normal day of backpacking, but it was a tough day. All off trail, navigating, route finding, that kind of thing. And getting through that little zigzag to get up onto this ridge right here that was wild and a little scary, if I'm being honest. Well, we're up over another saddle that was not easy, to be quite honest. In fact, today has been one of the more difficult days of backpacking that I've had. This off-trail navigation, probably hiking less than a mile an hour. We've only done, what, maybe 4 miles?
Yeah, about 4 so far.
Yeah, so, and we've been on the trail for 4 hours. Day 2 is where things got very real for me. Even though day 1 presented itself with the scenario that I physically needed to take Will's pack from him and carry it to a different spot as we were navigating and traversing across a dry fall that had a lot of exposure to it, and Will needed some help, and so I took his pack from him. So from the potholes right here, we've either got to make our way up around this bench and come down this gully, but right here is a big dry fall. And you can see It's quite a ways down. So, Navigation City, here we go. But on the second day, we were presented with the waiter slot. We were presented with very steep gullies for us to get up, and just not an awesome amount of water availability. And so I was exhausted. It was a very tiring day. We didn't hike a massive amount of miles by any means, but it was very tiring. And by the time we made it through the waiter slot, and then we were climbing up what was called Rabbit Ears Pass, I was done, man. I was just like totally worn out, mentally exhausted, and I wasn't sure what that day really meant in terms of like the grand scheme of things, but it would basically set up day 3 for me. Woo! Yeah, that's steep. Yeah. Just about over the top. Oh, goodness. No way.
Here we are.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
What do you think?
Now let me explain what I mean by that. We had just had one of the most difficult days of backpacking I'd ever experienced. It was very tough, mentally and physically, but it also was very, very rewarding with incredible views of things that not everybody that goes to Capitol Reef National Park is able to witness and experience, and that was incredible. Will and I had it to ourselves, and that's very special. And I'm not trying to like over dramatize or anything with this, but day 3 proved itself to be even more difficult. We were basically finishing the traditional route of the Beehive Traverse, and as we got to the end of the route, there was a lot of people. We had just spent the last day and a half, 2 days, isolated with incredible scenery and just experiencing things that not everybody else gets to see. And then all of a sudden we're like planted, boom, in front of all of these people that are like, why do you have backpacks on? Nobody backpacks right here. And there were kids running around, there was a lot of commotion, and I had a full-on panic attack. Straight up panic attack, and was like, what the heck is going on right now? My heart rate was skyrocket, was breathing quickly, just everything about what was happening was like overwhelming, and I didn't like it. I wanted to bail. Like, I had basically told myself we could just walk a mile out to the trailhead right here and get a ride, and we would be done, and I wouldn't have to be feeling the way that I'm feeling right now anymore. We had a little social hour with all the people that were hiking up Capitol Gorge from the parking lot, the trailhead, to go check out the tanks, and it actually kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety being around all the people and having a pack on and not having seen anybody for the last 2 days. And my heart rate went up for some reason, and I don't know, I felt kind of out of place. I can already tell that, like, now away from people, my heart rate's gone down, don't feel as anxious as I did. So, but that's where I realized that I was in the middle of a type 2 fun experience, and I wanted to like cultivate that because I knew that potentially something even more rewarding was going to come from it, and it absolutely did. I didn't tell Will about all of this because I didn't want to concern him, but I did mention that, like, wow, that was like really overwhelming for me to be around all of those people after experiencing what we had just experienced the last 2 days. What I didn't realize was going to come from this is that campsite for day 3 was probably, and is still probably, the most incredible campsite that I have had. The sunset that evening was incredible. It was just mind-blowing, and I don't think that it was anything different than a standard sunset that you see all the time while you're out backpacking, but it was what we had experienced, that panic attack that I had had. I was able to come out of that and enjoy a tough day the rest of the day, and they'd be presented with that experience. And I could not ask for a more perfect type of opportunity to have in the backcountry. And that's why the Beehive Traverse is so important to me, because it's not about the trail necessarily, it's about what that experience provided for me, and my now desire to want to seek out type 2 fun experiences when I'm going out on the trail, and plan things that are going to push my limits, push me mentally and physically, not to the point that like I'm putting myself in a dangerous situation. It's not at all what I want to accomplish with this. So I haven't really felt like filming much since we got out of Capitol Gorge and started making our way. Apparently there's a really good view. Oh yeah. Anyway, I'm not feeling super hot, super fatigued, my leg muscles and whatnot, but
The golden crown out there.
the work to get up here is worth it for this view. I want to seek out type 2 fun experiences, and the Beehive Traverse, thanks to Will and his amount of research and the time that he spent developing and planning that trip for he and I, it's just changed how I plan my trips. And so what I want you guys to do is go watch that video. Now that you've heard a little bit more perspective and background on what that was for me, go check that out. Watch my video and Will's video and see how incredible that trip and that area is. I mean, we're on the north end of Capitol Reef National Park, and this place is just incredible. So thank you so much for watching today, guys. That is my experience with my favorite backpacking trail. Again, hard to pick, hard to choose, but I do appreciate you guys watching. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Catch you on the next video. See you later.